got Scott here. We're in Burley, Idaho, and today he's going to take us through the new designed award-winning gearbox on this 340 HD Baler, and he's going to just explain what they did to make this such a great design to compete with the high-density balers with what they've done with this design on this gearbox.
Yeah, I mean, this gearbox is the revolutionary part of the baler. I mean, and I like to think of this as a 2-speed power shift transmission, because that's really what it is. It's not just a step-up gearbox or anything like that. There's a lot of features in here that you might not see at first sight. So as the PTO comes in, or the drive shaft comes in, when I start the baler, we get to 800. We turn the PTO RPMs up to 850. But at that point, we're not turning the baler over at all, because my transmission here is still in neutral. Right? But then with pulse width modulated solenoids, I start to pulse up that transmission just like you were letting out on the clutch, right? And so it's going to slowly start in first gear. It's got 2 gears. It's going to start in first gear. I'm going to start to spin that flywheel. Slowly, it gets it up to speed. Once it gets it up to speed in first gear, then it shifts into second gear.
And then from there, it gives you the option to speed the baler up to operating RPM.
Yeah, well, yeah. Once I've got to full speed in second gear, it starts slow in second gear as well, pulses it up to get to the top of second gear. Once it's fully engaged in second gear, then it tells me to throttle up to full RPMs on the tractor.
I got you.
Or 1,000 PTO RPMs here. It is a step-up gearbox as well, so at 1,000 PTO input, I'm at 1440 on the flywheel.
But we're still at 48 strokes per minute on the baler.
Yes.
So basically what you're doing there is you're taking this heavier flywheel, you're speeding this up to gain the inertia needed to get the capacity, but at the same strokes per minute on the baler.
Yeah, there's several ways to get inertia. We can do it with leverage by moving the weight. Notice all the weight's on the outside of the flywheel. So with leverage, we'll do it, the amount of weight that we have, and then the speed at which that weight is traveling, all build inertia, and that's what helps us go through that plunger stroke once we get it up to speed. But anytime you have any of those things, they're hard to start.
Right.
That's
absolutely.
the biggest problem with an HD baler, is getting the dang thing started, right? We have different competitors, have different hydraulic contraptions or spring contraptions, whatever it is to try and get this machine going. But once I get it going, we need that weight to push through those hard and heavy loads.
Right. Yeah, and that's so you kind of get rid of what we've discussed of the PTO bump when you're in a high capacity or any situation where you have wet air, anything like that.
How many times have you done that
on my plus balers? We get into say 15% moisture. I might have a 1,700 pound bale in the chamber, and on a small, not on a T8 400 horsepower tractor, but something like a 70 series, a 200 horsepower tractor. We're wide open throttle, basically trying to get the PTO to kick over, and it won't do it. This, no matter what we have in the chamber, empty chamber, full chamber, 100% capacity, this gearbox is going to make this baler start the same every time.
Yeah, whether it's full or empty. You bring up another point too, is what happens when you do get plugged and you're sitting there bumping that PTO to start it. A lot of times you have that slip clutch right here, right? And what does that slip clutch do? If it slips and gets hot, then I have a fire danger.
Right.
This has a slip clutch, but it's inside the box. So if it gets too hot, it will give you a warning and it will tell you to shut down for a minute, or just run the PTO so the lube oil is
cool it.
But it can cool that slip clutch down, so I'm not. And that's not external. I don't have a fire danger here.
Right.
That can be on an HD baler when I'm trying to get that big flywheel going. That could be a big problem. But now I've eliminated that. Put it in there.
Yeah, so that's way safer, because we have in the past had fires with clutches and whatnot. So now take us through on the driveline. We have an overriding clutch on the.
We do have an overrunning clutch. Okay, so the gearbox can free spin, but there's not only that, the other thing that's in here too, I mentioned the slip clutch. There's actually, and there's really a couple of clutch packs, right, for first gear and second gear. Those are both can act as slip clutches. But think about the slip clutch on your tractor.
Right.
Normally on a baler, that's what takes the abuse.
Right.
In this, there's none of that, because that PTO clutch is 100% engaged before I even start to turn the baler.
Right. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so.
nice. I
all
noticed
that wear goes into here where it's built for it.
Right. Now explain to us, because the first thing I noticed when I opened up this baler, I'm thinking, where's the pressure? Where's the pressure pump? And you guys have moved it here. Now take us through why you moved it there, and I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, so we have a few different pumps. If I want to control the density doors on the baler, I can start the PTO of the tractor. The baler doesn't have to turn over, and I can control the density doors.
Because you have double acting cylinders on
double acting cylinders, so I can move those cylinders both in and out with the hydraulics on the baler, and that's because of these pumps here. I also have a lube pump and also my regulated pressure for my transmission.
That's why it won awards.
That's right.
So we're really impressed with how this. This is the first time I've been up close to this baler, and I just can't believe how well thought out this was.
The other cool part about this is the brake, because if you've ever been running those heavy load situations, you shear a bolt or something like that, and you have to climb up there and back the flywheel back.
Your plunger stops at the most inconvenient spot.
The plunger always stops against the hay, right? Because
Yeah.
that's where the highest resistance is. So whenever I start, the very first thing I have to do is push that flake
you have
back.
to overcome that pressure.
Well, with this Smart Shift gearbox, what's going to happen is it's actually going to apply a brake just past that point. It's going to apply the brake in there, so it stops the plunger basically on its way back up, away from the hay. So that way it has a full revolution before it actually smacks that bell again.
Yeah,
and that makes a huge difference on starting.
Yeah, that's absolutely
So
a big difference. Because that's the first thing. I don't know if you can see that up here, but the plunger is basically stopped. The arms are almost top dead center up there, where it's going to come all the way around and hit that. So as I was saying, I got cut off. But this is a 159-inch chamber. So we're trying to shove basically two and a half bales of weight out on the previous models and competitors' models and everything. That plunger is going to be right up against those bales, where this is going to set that plunger in the correct spot to where you have all that force to come around before you even touch the hay, to where it'll be fine for startup on whatever size tractor. I mean, what's your horsepower recommendation? Can you run this with a 220 horsepower tractor?
yeah, now you caught me off guard. I don't remember off the top of my head what the horsepower rating is or what the requirement is, but you can run it with a really low horsepower tractor, because 90% of why we need high horsepower is to get that thing started.
Right. It's all startup.
It's startup.
Yeah.
Once I get going, and in this case, it's not so much the horsepower as it is the weight to control the tractor or control the baler is a bigger deal.
Right, because it's 30,000 plus
32,000
pounds.
pounds. Yeah. So it's a heavy baler.
Yeah. So that's one thing, I guess, people just looking at this baler and thinking, oh man, this is a great design, this fits. You have to think about that not only from just because this has this gearbox. Like you said, this is an extremely heavy baler, so you still need a heavy tractor to control the weight of the baler.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind, I guess, looking forward on the baler.
Another place we put a lot of weight is actually in the main gearbox. The main gearbox is a lot heavier than what we've had, like on our plus balers. The other thing is the way it's mounted. If you look at this, the main gearbox is mounted to this tube right here.
This is a massive
tube. A massive tube. Normally we mount the gearbox down lower.
Right.
But if you think about it, when that plunger is pushing, where is it pushing? And in this case, it's pushing right into that beam.
Right.
So the force being pushed right into the beam makes it so the gearbox isn't getting tweaked or pushed or bent. It's going right into that main beam support.
Right.
So I can do that time after time after time
with no issues.
With no issues.
That's another thing that I noticed with the plunger arms. I mean, you're talking a bearing housing. I haven't been up there and actually looked at it, but our plus balers are this big. I'm just kind of throwing this out there, and these ones are double the size to take that impact of what this is putting out.
Designed for. Yep, exactly it. And when you get into those crops like straw, corn silver, and some of those tougher crops, it's tougher to get the bell weights. That's where this thing really shines.
Excels.
Yeah.
Now, I might catch you off guard here, but have you guys what's your difference in bale weight between, say, a plus baler on the guys that are running the straw versus this? Have you guys done any?
Yeah, we've done some benchmarking. We're somewhere in. The thing is the plus baler is actually, for the baler it can make a really nice heavy bale.
Right.
And it can do that day in and day out. But this thing is going to be able to give me that bale weight for
A longer
longer time.
Yeah, that's.
But especially in those tougher to bale crops. But you know, I'm going to be somewhere between that 15 to 18% better density than a plus. But a lot of that depends on conditions. If I'm in perfect conditions, that plus baler can make a heck of a bale.
Right.
But if I'm in more challenging, I'm baling straw in the heat of the afternoon. Now that's where this thing's going to excel, because I'm in that tougher condition and it's going to separate from the plus.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think New Holland's done a fantastic job on this with this gearbox and whatnot.
Lots of cool features. I mean, it's really neat how well, and it's not just the step up. It's everything that's combined together to make this gearbox really one of the key features on the bed.
Right. Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me up to do this, because this is very, very interesting, and just the way that New Holland went about putting this together. You know, sometimes, as we've seen competitors, when they try something new like this, there's issues. I mean, there's bugs that have to be worked out and whatnot. And I see that happening with this New Holland baler. From what I've seen and what I've heard on the trials that they've ran around, this is pretty well thought out from the get-go. So that's a big step forward in the baling market for sure.
It is. There's a lot of things that we thought about. I mean, of course, we're going to learn some stuff when we get them into the field, and we've done some. We've done where we've built just a few to get them out there, and then we build a few more, and now we're up to full production. But it really has been, it's gone really well.
Right.
I mean, we've had a few glitches here and there, but overall it's been fabulous.
We appreciate it, Scott.
No problem.
Let's check out the rest of this baler.
Okay.